For those joining us, we're just going to give it one moment.
Recording in progress.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the October NRS webinar. We're so happy that you could make it and join us once again, and we hope that we have some exciting content for you today. So we have heard from you, the communications we've received from during these webinars and during the help desk or in the help desk email that you would like to hear more from NIFA. So today we have 3 of our lovely national program leaders joining us to discuss the 2023 plan of work and their feedback. As you all know, this was a bit of a transition where we had half of the process manual, half of it in NRS, but we are really, really excited that the 2024 plan of work will be completed in NRS, and that we plan on having the full demonstration of that process in the coming year, and that the due date for that 2024 plan of work will be June 1st of 2023. We also have today with us the ASL interpreter, Courtney. If at any point you cannot view Courtney, please definitely send us a chat message so we can make sure that that stays on the screen. Also, feel free to check your settings that you are on gallery view. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start with Tim Sullivan, one of the national program leaders, to provide you with some of that feedback from the process this year. Tim?
Pressure's on, I guess. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to speak to this group. I think it's really great that they've asked us to talk a little bit. I've been with NIFA 2.5 years, so I've been through the plan of work process a few times and have also seen some really good examples from Deb and some of the other folks with more experience. And I engage, just so everyone knows, in programs related to animal health and aquaculture. So if you have NRS projects that are related to fish, inevitably, you've probably gotten emails from me. So I'm going to divide my couple of minutes between the what the role of the MPL is, as I see it, but then also talk a little bit about the characteristics of a really effective plan of work, the things that I kind of look for, the way I review. So it'll be a little bit of a mashup, but hopefully you will find it useful. As far as the MPL role, there's really two functions. The first is oversight. So all of the capacity programs have their own legislation that authorizes them, and each has specific legislative requirements. So MPLs have a responsibility to make sure that the research extension programming that is supported by funding is in line with that legislation. And maybe more importantly, the American people and the United States government have given us a gift by providing funds that allow us to help the people in our communities. And we have a duty to make sure that that funding is used in the best possible way so that it has the greatest benefit for U.S. agriculture and the American people. So that's one part. And the other part that I think is a little more fun for the MPL and more in some ways meaningful is to act as a support person. So land-grant universities and NIFA are partners in supporting U.S. agriculture through critical research and extension programming that's supported by formula funds. So strong plans that best meet stakeholder needs and highlight the breadth of innovative work that you all are doing are really key to that. From the plans that I have reviewed the last few years and from the others that I've seen, universities around the country are doing exemplary work. And by providing review of these plans and the accomplishment reports, NIFA's MPLs are able to help to make sure that all of that really critical work is made clear. When I go about reviewing, I think about it, what I want to have happen is to make sure that a naive reviewer, someone who knows nothing about agriculture or capacity programming, so say someone in Congress or the public or even in another part of the government like the Office of Management and Budget, if they were looking at capacity funding, I'd want them to look at those plans and see through those plans the dedication you all have to making an invaluable contribution to U.S. agriculture. So I want that to be abundantly clear to them. So there's no question about how important these programs are. So maybe that'll make more sense when I talk about what is part of a great report, a great plan. I know Deb has talked to you all, and I honestly could never do a better job than her about explaining the ins and outs of that process, but I sat a few days with this, kind of mulling it over and trying to come up with the smallest characteristics that I could come up with. So for me, an exceptional report has transparency, clarity, and comprehensiveness. So I talked a little bit about naive reviewers. The executive summary is really a primer for the rest of the plan. So it's really important to me to have a clear description of the agricultural community that plan serves. And also a primer of the issues that are at stake. So not necessarily the critical issues, but the overarching themes. So some states, they have particular health issues, environmental health that are big concerns. Others, there are rural development concerns that are really primary and drive a lot of the critical issues. Understanding that from the very beginning makes the rest of the plan much easier to think about. And obviously that plan details how you survey stakeholders, generate data, how you use the data, how you ensure the rigor of the research and extension programming that you put out, and how you plan to provide deliverables. So for each of those steps, I want to, ideally in the good plans, there's no room for inference, no room for interpretation. There are no areas where someone who's reading and doesn't know can infer the wrong thing. So they're really direct. They speak to general audiences, but they do it in a way where everyone comes away with the proper understanding. One thing that when I ask questions and make comments about these plans when I've reviewed them, it's really, most of them are clarifying comments. So when you talk about stakeholders and how you engage with them all, one question that many times comes up is, have you reached every group possible? So are there any underserved groups that aren't being reached by the plan as it stands? So those are the kind of things I work through to try to clarify each point. The last thing I will say before I turn it over to the next MPL is, I mentioned transparency. It may be a cliche, but I always think that honesty is the best policy. So plans that stand out to me that I've read, they don't shy away from being clear about things that will be difficult. and may not succeed, and what you're going to do about that. Because not everything works. 2 years ago, we had a ton of plans that had to be adjusted on the fly because of the pandemic. And people were honest about what was hard and what they needed to change. And I think that was really valuable. And there's an important lesson there. So I hope that helped. That's kind of my take, though. So thank you all. And I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Tim. I don't see any questions at this time. So we are going to move right along. The next National Program Leader we have with us today is Michelle Samuel-Fu.
Good afternoon, everyone. Joy and Tim, thank you both for that really fantastic. Tim, you did an outstanding job outlining the roles of an NPL and the entire agency in reviewing these plans of work. I'm going to begin by just talking a little bit about myself. I know that this is a very important partner audience for us, and how important it is to understand who exactly is serving in these roles as national program leaders. I hope that I don't see everyone listed on the screen, but I hope at least I'm familiar with a couple of the individuals, and I'm certain that I am. Again, my name is Michelle Samuel-Fu, and I am a national program leader in the Division of Plant Protection here at NIFA. I am an entomologist by training, and I've worked in specialty crop agriculture for the past 20 years or so, and I'm including my graduate work in there to round up, because 20 years sounds better than 14 years. I worked at I studied at the University of Georgia in the entomology department there. And after I earned my PhD, I worked at the University of Florida in UF IFAS for about 10 years as part of the specialty crop pest management program, IR4, and which is a NIFA funded program. And after UF, my work took me to Alabama State University, where I worked also in their agricultural initiative prior to joining NIFA earlier this year. So I'm an NPL that is one of the newer NPLs with the Institute. So I'm going to talk about what I look for and how I approached my review as part of my responsibilities being a national program leader. So there are 5 categories that we had to comment on in the state plan of work that we were each assigned to review. And these were the plan overview, merit and scientific review processes, the stakeholder input, critical issues, and then we could end by giving some general recommendations. So the state that I reviewed, they had both an 1890 institution and an 1862 land grant university. And they worked together. It was clear that they worked together to produce a single document, so a single plan of work. I thought that they did a very commendable job with outlining their critical issues. I didn't have to go searching for them, which I really appreciated. It made my job of reviewing this document easier. And as Tim pointed out, transparency and having succinct but detailed statements to really highlight and showcase the impacts of the great work that our land grant universities are doing really makes it easy for us to do our job. There were 7 critical issues that were outlined in the plan of work that I reviewed. And these included things like agricultural and food systems, family and communities, nutrition, health and food safety, and research management for invasive pest species. And these all I found, among others, and I found that these all aligned directly with the USDA strategic plan priorities, which again, it made my job of reviewing the document both interesting and fairly easy. So my approach was that I read through each section thoroughly and then began writing my review the next day. But it took me, in essence, about a week or so to really comprehend and put my thoughts together. And so I had to go back and reread sections of the document just to make sure that I fully understood what my state was planning to do. So in addition to checking for appropriateness, and fit. I looked for connections in the plan of work to see how they might potentially impact and benefit the state's stakeholders. A couple of items that that really stood out to me were the critical issues. They all had appropriate science emphasis areas, and the timeframes to address each critical issue was very reasonable. And although all that they reported seemed to be long-term issues, I assumed that the appropriate short and midterm indicators were integrated for each critical issue reported. I did make the suggestion to have the short and midterm milestones delineated in future reporting, just so that those are clearly outlined for any new reviewers potentially. What I really loved about what my state did was they did an outstanding job with gauging their stakeholder input. So they utilized a variety of methods to do this, everything from statewide needs assessment to listening groups, to focus groups, to surveys. And they even went so far as to have some of their listening sessions done in 2 languages. So in both Spanish and English, which I saw as an intentional effort to address and to encompass the needs of their diverse stakeholder base. Sometimes they met in person, hybrid, and virtually. And the results from the listening sessions, it was clear that those would be taken into account as they were planning their next strategic plan. For future planning, I had one gentle suggestion that I made, and that was I was encouraging the 2 institutions to highlight instances of collaboration so that we could showcase how the 1890 institution and the 1862 institution are working together to ensure effective use of resources, to reach broader audiences, and to avoid missed opportunities for impact. Thank you very much. That's all that I had to share. And I am not going to be staying on for much longer because I do have another appointment, but if there are any questions for me, please feel free to send them, or I'm sure Joy will be communicating those to me also. Thank you again very much.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Tim. This is great. Just to hear more about the NPL role and how you guys are looking for that alignment with NIFA, the connection of the critical issues. I appreciate the suggestions that you're offering to the LGUs to highlight more instances of the collaboration. We know that is happening. So yes, please continue to include that information. Wonderful. So no, we did not get any questions at this point. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with Jessica Shea.
Hi, I am a national program leader in the Division of Plant Systems Production. And in addition to reviewing capacity programs, I also work in 3 main competitive programs: Specialty Crop Research Initiative, the Urban Indoor and Emerging Ag Program, and then the Data Science for Food and Agriculture Systems area within AFRI, the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative. So happy to answer any questions about this or any questions about those topic areas too. So I'm going to try not to repeat too much of what Tim and Michelle said. I think they did a fantastic job of really covering the process and the intention behind these reviews. But I'll talk a little bit about, kind of the general process that I go through, that a lot of NPLs go through. So the first thing that I look for in the plan of work was to make sure that all the key components of each section are really clearly answered. So did the executive summary have an overview of planned activities to address critical short-term, intermediate, and long-term agricultural issues in the state during the upcoming reporting year? Did the merit and peer review describe processes that will be used at the institutions to guide resource allocation and programming decisions? For the critical issues, in addition to checking that they all had the information describing the issues, I also look to make sure that they're identified based on stakeholder input, and that each of the critical issues were associated with at least one of NIFA's science emphasis areas. I'm also looking for how appropriate the plans are. So do they actually focus on the food and agriculture sector? Do they make sense in the context of the institution missions and priorities? Does everything align and point towards a clear goal? So after checking those kind of nuts and bolts, that's when I start looking more in depth at each of the areas. And what I'm really looking for is evidence from what's written in the plan of work that the institutions are going to have impactful accomplishments in the future. So will this plan lead to meaningful solutions to stakeholder needs? Are these things feasible? And are they actionable? Or are they more kind of esoteric? A lot of what I was looking for was based on what I've seen in the ARERA final reports. So we want impacts that are more than just a scientific study to get, a scientific study getting completed. We want to know that the information gets communicated to the stakeholders, and especially what are the outcomes from that communication? How have stakeholders in your state been meaningfully served by the projects? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I read these reports. And to that end, I also look at past years' ARERA annual reports to see what kinds of impacts that you've had in the past, to better understand how the plan of work integrates those into the, integrates into those outcomes. I'll also talk about some of the things that I really appreciate when reviewing, and then pitfalls to watch out for. So one of the things that I really appreciated was new information and priorities that got incorporated into the plan of work. So for example, new phases that the state is experiencing with COVID and how those are impacting the agricultural sector and community. Reading those really made me aware of how the state is thinking critically about current needs, because it can be easy to lose track of that with so many long-term issues, because a lot of the things that you're tackling do take years and years to address. So, it could be possible for a plan of work to change very little from one year to another. So including new short or long-term priorities as they arise keeps things fresh, and it shows how new challenges are being identified and addressed. I really liked when the connection between the plan activities supported the ideals of the institution. So for example, how the merit and scientific review process was protecting academic freedom. I also thought it was really great when the integration of diversity, equity, and inclusion priorities happened in multiple aspects of the plan. So rather than having a separate DEI section, those principles should be incorporated as a central tenet of the plan as a whole and each of the plan sections. I enjoyed reading about areas where institutions had put deep thought into how best to succeed at its goals, even things kind of outside the box a little. So things like mentorship programs to support their faculty, to make sure that they had tools that they needed to excel at achieving the plan deliverables. And one thing that you shouldn't forget about is evaluation. So it's not just the how-to of the goal process in the plan of work, but also are the outcomes having an impact, which will tie into the ARERA annual reports. I know I sound like a broken record talking about these impacts, but those are really meaningful to us at NIFA when we end up with the annual reports. I also appreciate when the report has enough information in it for me to get a big picture of the plan, but is also concise enough that the actions aren't overwhelmed or hidden by the philosophies of the institutions. And by that, I mean, it's easy to accidentally write a whole lot about what an institution stands for with very general language about the mission and vision and overarching ideals that you're working towards without actually getting into an actual plan. So that's something to watch out for. Have you written 3 pages in your executive summary about your institutional principles and standards without actually pinpointing the specific activities that you'll be taking over, that you'll be accomplishing in the next year? So that's my spiel about the plan of work. I also just want to thank all of the institutions for all the time that you put into these. I know that these take a lot of work and a lot of thought, and know that that work is noticed. We read every word of these plans of work, and really appreciate the amount of work that you put into them and the thought behind it.
Thank you, Jessica. That was really great information. I mean, I appreciate you talking about the larger process, about how the NPLs do go back and review what's happening year to year to really see what was the impact from last year. How does that fit into the plan of work? And I also appreciate including those little short and long-term priority updates when the plan of work is not just overwhelmingly changing, right? So thank you so much. Are there any questions? I didn't see any specifically. Let me make sure there are no questions for you guys in the Q&A. No, I don't see any. So we appreciate you guys for joining us. Certainly, if we receive some toward the end of the webinar, we'll be sure to send that to you so that we can get that response out. But I thank you, all 3 of you, for attending and providing this feedback. Once again, the partners have expressed just really hearing from NIFA is really good to have that face-to-face, so to speak, interaction to talk about what it is you guys are actually looking for during this time. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So moving right along, we have an exciting demonstration with, let me change my screen, with Jen Mascara. She is going to be showing us the changelog feature in NRS.
Thank you, Joy. Excuse me. Thank you, Joy. And good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone had a great day. Let me go ahead and share my screen if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome, fantastic. Okay, so the purpose of this demo is to show you the changelog feature that the team recently just deployed. I believe it was like last week. So the reason why I didn't start from the beginning is because the network has been a little slow and I don't want us to get caught up and not be able to move forward. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm actually logged in right now as a sysadmin in production. So when I log in as a sysadmin, I'm going to go to manage under projects and programs, and it'll take you to this page. Once you get to this page, in order to get to the changelog feature, you would actually select a project by clicking the title link. So for this, I'm just going to select beneficial and adverse effects of natural chemicals on human health and food safety. So I'm going to click on the title link. And it's going to take me to what we call the individual project view. On the individual project view, you'll see a view changelog button that's located right here underneath the print project button with the little file cabinet icon next to it. And then you would click this. And by clicking that, it'll open up the changelog modal. On the changelog modal, you'll see it'll say the changelog title here, when it was last updated, and whatever edits or updates that were made to this project are actually grouped by date. So for example, on October 12th, 2022, when I click the upside down caret, it'll expand it, and it'll actually show me at what time, the user Jacques made the edit of basically submitting the project to org review. It'll also show me at 3:20, that he made changes to the org project number route, which is basically just 31,149. That's what it is now. It'll also show me the changes that he made to the project prefix or organization project prefix, and any changes that were made to any of the fields on the project program form. You'll actually see it here. So these were all the changes that Jacques made on October 12th. And then if I click the caret, it'll collapse. And if I want to see the changes on October 13th, 2022, I'll select the caret again, it'll expand, and it'll show here that Hector at 1:55 p.m. on October 13th, 2022, submitted the project to NIFA review. So that's essentially just it for the view change log. Not sure if we have any questions around the features, but I can tell you that for the change log, for us tracking the change log track, it tracks basically back to October 1st, 2021. So changes for projects that were migrated from report are not included at this time. They are in report for references. Anyone can view this change log. It doesn't matter what role you have or school or organization, everyone can see it, right? This change log is available now. We just deployed it last week. And obviously you can see that the changes made in the change log are grouped by day and they're displayed in chronological order. Are there any questions that folks may have? Oh, well, let me add one more thing, I'm sorry. For classification changes on the change log, right now we actually don't display the percentage changes for classification at this time, only changes to the selected values for the knowledge area, subject of investigation, field of science. We do have a user story in the backlog that the team is planning on working on to address the percentage changes for the classifications, but at this moment, we don't currently display that. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
There are, but before we proceed with that,
Sure.
we had someone ask that, can you share how you access this again? So can you go through how you access this again? Right quick?
Sure. I'm going to try it from the dashboard.
Okay.
But like I said, the network has been a little slow, so if you can bear with me. So everyone, when they log in, they see this dashboard, right? Obviously, the tiles will be different, right? Depending on the role. Me as a sysadmin, I see everything, so I see all the tiles. But typically, anyone can go into the manage of the project programs, and it'll take you to the project and program dashboard. This is where you see all of your projects and programs. Just bear with me, because like I said, the network is a little slow today. Okay, and then depending on what you want to see the change log for. So for example, if I want to see the first one, so I would select the project first. It'll take me to the project detail page. And then right underneath the print project is this little icon with the little file cabinet icon with the view change log, and that's a link. So you just click here. And then it's grouped by dates. So then you would just click the caret to expand and see the changes. So like I said, anything before October 1st, you probably won't be able to see it. So that's why we see the NA here. But if you were to select October 13th, 2022, you'll see changes there by Casey. So are there any questions around, any other questions on how to get here?
Yes, several. Yay.
Okay. All right.
Can researchers add notes here, like when a project is deferred?
That's a good question.
I'm sorry, can reviewers add notes to researchers here, like when a project is deferred?
So when a project is deferred, we don't have that feature yet. I think we do have a story in the backlog for that, but for projects and programs, right? When you defer, we don't actually have that feature yet. But for POW and annual report stuff, annual reports, we actually do have the defer functionality for that, but for projects and programs, we do not at this moment. So you would most likely have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alexis, jump in here whenever you want, but most likely you would have to contact individuals outside of the system.
Yes, I hit a button too fast. And in Q&A, I saw Terry's question about results, and I think there was another question following that about results from Diane. So just in general, I wanted to just make a statement that in the coming months, you'll notice that we're really focused on enhancing features or modules that are already in the system. Specifically, after the financial reports due, we're looking at results. And so that's really something we have been talking about, making some changes, because right now it's very difficult to view them. Going in individually is not easy, and it's not the best way to manage those. So that is definitely at the top of the list. The team is working on rounding up or finishing up the plan of work module. And so even though we've moved past that, just finalizing that so that for 2024, it's ready. Next up, looking at how we can make it easier to view results, not just for you all, but also for NIFA, because NIFA needs to review those. So 100% agree that that is something that we need, and it is definitely in the works. So we hope to have an update on that for you soon, but definitely realize that that's something that is necessary and needed. I will also say that I see a question or a couple questions about comments for projects that are deferred. Also at the top of the list, because it will make life so much easier if a quick comment can be left there for you all to view, to know the reason for the deferral and eliminate the need for the outside the system emails. So I would say both of those are very high up on the list in terms of priority. And I will leave it at that, but I'm still trying to answer the Q&A as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Alexis. And we actually have, do you want to answer any of the other questions, the live Q&A questions, before we get the attendees' hands?
Is that to me or is that to Alexis?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was to Alexis. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you can go ahead. I'll just answer one really quick because I saw two of the same quickly about co-PIs. We've heard from you all a lot that that's something you want. We are aware it is on the list, but really just trying to focus on things first, like results, where it really impacts the ability to do things in the system that you need to do. So not to say it's not important or that it's not on the list, but we're really just trying to tackle some of those bigger items that we think will have an impact on the activities that need to be completed in the system first. So no ETA, sorry.
Thanks for that. And I just wanted to quickly say, if you could possibly all use the Q&A feature over the chat feature, that will ensure that we actively answer your question. We can see what questions have been answered and which one we're planning to discuss throughout the conversation. So if your question was put in the chat and it has not had a typed response or been addressed live, please go ahead and retype that in the Q&A, okay? We do have a request from Sharon Limley to ask a question. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak, Sharon. Sharon, can you hear us? Okay, maybe I lost her. Okay, Sharon, if you come back, just let us know, just re-raise your hand. The next person is Ishara. Please forgive me if I didn't pronounce that right. Ishara. You want to go ahead with your question?
Did I raise my hand? Sorry if I did.
No problem. So we did have a few more questions in the chat. Are there any plans in place to update the download feature for projects and results currently print as PDF? I know the last time I downloaded some, the PDFs were, I know the last time I downloaded some, the PDFs download without recognizable text. This really limits the usability of these reports. So if you're downloading a report, I'm definitely going to let the development team talk about that. But if you're downloading a report and it's not coming out right, please definitely reach out to the help desk. But we do have a couple of people on the panelist group if you want to talk about any plans in place to update the download feature for the projects and results.
So if I may, so currently we do have the print project. Can I share my screen? As a matter of fact, to just show this really quickly. Share screen. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So for the PDF, any plans in place to update, so by updating the download feature, I'm not really sure what exactly you're referring to. However, we do have this print project button here. Not sure if you've seen it before, but if you actually click this, you can actually save it as a PDF, and you should be able to download it and save it exactly as you see it. So if I click save, and I do USDA, NIFA, yes. Let me go here. That was USDA. I think it was desktop. Sprint 68. I'm just trying to find it. I'm sorry. Okay, this is it right here. So this is what you would see. Did that kind of answer your question? I'm not sure who asked that.
We had clarification on whether a print button is on that page.
Yes, there is a.
And they were specifically trying to download results.
Okay, so yeah, so for results, you can actually download results. I have to actually find a project with results, but I can probably show it to you in a lower environment if I can. Give me 1 second. Like I said, the network is a little slow today, so I'm sorry about that. Let me move over to a lower environment if I can. Okay. So I'm going to log in as Florida, I believe. This is just a lower environment. So you guys don't really see this part here. So let me go ahead. Let's do add results. I'm going to do testing webinar 10/13. And then we'll select the fiscal year 2022. We'll just go down the list. And then when we scroll down here, I'm going to click save and continue. I'm going to click submit for organizational review. And I'm going to click view details. And you should have print right here. Did that answer your question? So in short, yes, you are able to print or save PDF, whether it's a program project or a result.
Yes, that answered their question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see Alexis is answering, but we have a couple of questions on terminating projects, deleting projects. Do we want to provide an update on that? And then a question about what this may have been addressed, but about seeing when results are submitted.
So for the Alexis, did you want me to take it, or do you want to take this?
Yeah, I can answer about the deleting. I think that's what you said, right, Joy? I was in the middle of typing a response, but I think that's what you said. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So for deleting, I mentioned in one of the Q&As, so deleting or archiving a project is currently not available. definitely towards the top of the priority list as well. In the meanwhile, you can change the project to draft, which means that we can't see it on the NIFA side, or you can put archive or delete in the front of the title, which will sort of help with cleanup when we get to the point where we can delete projects and programs as needed. If you push it through to NIFA review and we see that you have in the title delete or archive in the front, we just go ahead and hit decline on it to stop any future workflow. So for the time being, that's how we're handling those. Understand it's a feature that's needed. Definitely something we're working on, but that's the process we've been using.
Yeah, I actually think we're I think we're actually working on that this spring, Alexis. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. I am trying to get through. There are a lot of good questions. Some are the same, so I'm trying to get through. Oh, is there any progress on being to add co-project directors in NRS?
I think Alexis actually answered that earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
She said that I believe Alexis said that it's at the top of the priority list and we're working through it. Right.
Okay.
Well, it is on the list. The COPI is on the list, but we're just trying to address some of the larger
that's what it was.
Things that impact, the reporting activity. So for example, the ability to view results, all results, which ones have results, which ones don't, just a way to more easily view that information, both on the LGU side and the NIFA side. So items like that, we are trying to work through first, but we have been keeping track of COPI. We know that it's something that you all ask about frequently. So we haven't forgotten about it, still tracking it.
Okay. Well, I think that is all.
Cool.
I don't
well, thank you so much.
Else.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you so much, Jen. Well, thank you everyone for another, hopefully, informative webinar. Again, we heard from the NPLs about the 2023 plan of work feedback. For those who came in a little after we started, I just wanted to reiterate, we do intend for the plan of work for 2024 to be within NRS fully. That date for the deadline for that will be June 1st, 2023. We will be updating the website, the application launch page with that date, along with a couple of the other reporting deadline information. So without further delay, when can we start? We will, Alexis, we have one more question about when can we start entering the results for 2024 reporting year, 2022 reporting year, the results?
Yeah, unless I'm missing something, I don't know why you can't start now. We added in a couple months there so that when the results are entered, NIFA has time to review those and really read through them. So I know that it's a big task, especially for the LGUs that have a lot of projects in the system. So if you would like to get started now, I think that's fine. If you have questions, please let us know. We are working on how to be able to view those. So hopefully we could get that going soon, because that would make it a lot easier for you and us. But outside of that, I don't see why you can't start now.
Sounds good. And we look forward to seeing you all in November. Remember, please, if you have any ideas for something you specifically want to see, we did get some of those comments in the chat today. Do not hesitate to email the NRS help desk and nrs@usda.gov and give us some of those suggestions so that we can provide that for you. If there are no further questions, which I do not believe so, we will see you all in November. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.